Chapter 12. The Cupola. It was dark outside when I awoke the next morning. Several women's voices were raised in the song to the new day. I recognized Tia's voice, harmonizing with the high, clear notes of Senorita Victoria and Senorita Margarita. As I dressed, I could hear the loud jingle of Ernesto's spurs. Minutes later, the sound of the horses' hooves pounding down the trail reached my ears. I opened the door from my room onto the veranda. Father was there by himself. He wore a long leather poncho and a broad-brimmed leather hat. "What are you doing, Father? Why are you up so early?" I asked. "I am waiting for Luis to bring extra horses. Uncle Frank and I and the vaqueros plan to travel a long way today, looking for stray cattle. We will need fresh horses as we search the canyons and arroyos for the missing cattle. Uncle Frank thinks the banditos may be stealing the animals too. Many cows and calves are missing." Soon Luis appeared with several horses. "The vaqueros will ride hard until the horses are tired," Luis said to my father. "Then they will turn the tired horses loose and ride these." Luis pointed to the horses that he had brought. "You will need every one of these extra horses today." Luis sounded as if he wished he was going on the search too. Father thanked Luis, waved to me, and mounted his horse. He took the ropes of the extra horses and headed down the trail. Luis rode past me. He glanced at me and frowned, and then galloped his horse back down the path toward the corral. On the heel of his boots, I noticed a big splat of whitewash. Is Luis still upset with me? I thought about calling to him, but decided against it. Padre Francisco came toward me, leading a mule. He had a long leather poncho like Father's. "I'm glad to see you're up so early, Clara. I'm leaving for Mission Santa Barbara and wanted to say goodbye." "Padre Francisco, why must you leave so soon? Please don't go." "Clara, I promised to be at Mission Santa Barbara before the new year. The soldiers are needed there." "Be careful on the trail, Padre Francisco." Tears filled my eyes. "I have the soldiers to protect me and my Indian friends to help me. Senor Banderos and his sons are joining us. We'll be safe, Clara. Don't worry about me." As I hugged the Padre, I whispered in his ear, "Keep watch for the king and grizzly bears." I ran into the hacienda. "Buenos dias, Clara," said the twins. "We have already had our first breakfast with Papa and Uncle Burley, and now we will have our second breakfast with you," said Pablo. "I'm not hungry. Have you seen my mother?" "She's in our parents' bedroom with Mama," answered Hector. The twins led me into a large bedroom. Mother and Tia were unrolling the colorful woven rug. Mother looked at me. "Clara, you look unhappy. Come and see the rug Uncle Frank gave to Tia for Christmas. It'll cheer you up." The rug was beautiful. Bright yellow and brown designs were woven onto a tan background. "Where did Uncle Frank get this?" I asked. "The Indian woman in our weaving shop wove the rug," answered Tia. "They learned from their mothers and grandmothers how to weave many kinds of baskets. The women use their basket-making skills when they weave on our looms. And when you visit our weaving shop, Clara, you will see the wool from the sheep being spun into yarn and then woven into rugs, blankets, and cloth for clothing." As Mother and Tia laid the rug on the floor, I looked around the room at the furniture. There were 2 chairs and a table and a small wooden cradle where baby Consuelo lay sound asleep. Against the far wall was a 4-poster bed. A large wooden cross hung up on the wall above the head of the bed. The bed was covered with snowy white linen trimmed with lace. A soft white comforter was folded across the end of the bed. Lace curtains hung on rods from the top of the post to the floor. I walked over and ran my hand across the fancy silk. Immediately, several small black bugs jumped into my hand. I shook my hand and stepped back from the bed. Tia laughed. "Look, Clara, I see you have met our little friends. We all share our beds with the pulgas." I knew what she meant. I had noticed red bites all around my wrists. The black bugs were fleas. I had been so tired at night that I had not bothered to shake out my bed coverings before I got into bed. Tonight, I would be more careful. "It seems in California," continued Tia, "we have many pulgas because there are so many animals and so much dirt. We sometimes call El Camino Real Alameda de las Pulgas." Everyone laughed. "In spite of the fleas, your bed is beautiful," commented Mother. "The furniture in this room reminds me of the furniture in Boston." Tia smiled. "That is because the furniture in our hacienda came on ships from around the Cape Horn to Boston. Each time a ship came from Boston, we would trade some of our hides and tallow for a piece of furniture. It took many years for us to get the furniture for our hacienda. We depend on trading ships for many things. I am hoping that the next ship has silk cloths from China so that I will be able to make more pillows. Mama, interrupted Pablo, may we show Clara the cupola? Why, yes, of course, Pablo, answered Tia. The boys led me out of Tia's bedroom and through the sala. We have a spyglass in the cupola, said Hector, and if we hurry, we will be able to see Papa and Uncle Pearly and the vaqueros riding toward the canyons. Hearing the word spyglass, I asked the boys to wait while I went to get something from my trunk. And when I returned from my room, the boys took me up a narrow, steep stairway to the second floor of the hacienda. You will like the cupola, Clara, said Hector. You can see a lot from the rancho up there. When we reached the top of the stairs, Hector pointed up to the cupola. We had to climb a short ladder to get into the small lookout built of the roof. The three of us could barely fit into it. The cupola had a peaked roof up by 4 posts. The cool wind whipped through it. But the minute I saw the view of the rancho, I forgot about the wind. The hacienda was built on a rise, and I could see in all directions. The boys opened a small wooden box on the corner and took out this old spyglass. You can see the rancho better with a spyglass, said Hector. I reached into my pocket and took out my own spyglass, and the boys' mouths flew open. Where did you get that spyglass? It looks brand new. Pablo stared at the spyglass. I had it in my trunk, I answered. When Mother, Father, and I sailed from Boston to Monterey around Cape Horn, Captain Nichols showed us many sights, and he let me use his spyglass once or twice. And then, when we left the Lady Shellhorn in Monterey, he gave me a new spyglass for my very own, and this is the first time I've had a chance to use it. Through the spyglass, I looked over the vast land of grass, rolling hills, and mountain valleys. I could see El Camino Real running north and south, winding its way through the rancho land. There were no fences, and I could see thousands and thousands of cattle roaming the land. Everywhere I pointed the spyglass, I could see even more cattle. They covered the land. Here and there I saw small flocks of white sheep guarded by Indians and watchdogs. Look to the east, Clara. I turned my spyglass and I could see the dust cloud that Father and Uncle Frank and the vaqueros were making as they rode toward the Santa Lucia Mountains. I could see black rain clouds, and it looked as if it had already started to rain in the mountains. I turned my spyglass to the south. I could see Padre Francisco with the soldiers, the Indians, and the Senor Banderos and his sons all moving along El Camino Real. It saddened me to know I wouldn't see Padre Francisco for a while. Look down by the creek, Clara. See the carretas piled high with dirty clothes? Indian women have been working since dawn, washing the clothes and putting the clothes on bushes to dry. And later they will have a picnic lunch and a siesta while they wait for the clothes to dry, said Pablo. I don't think they will have a picnic today. It looks as if rain is on the way, added Hector. Where do the Indians who work on the rancho live? I asked. They live in a village down by the creek, not far from where women are doing the laundry, explained Pablo. I looked along the creek, but I couldn't see the village. Isn't the cupola a great place, Clara? Said Hector. If you look at the west, you can see the ocean. When we have fiestas, one of us sits up here and watches for our guests to arrive. We like to come up here to watch the strangers or banditos, said Pablo. You never know when banditos may come and raid the rancho. I looked across the landscape to the mountains. Father had mentioned banditos, too. After the boys had taken turns using my spyglass, they invited me to have a look at their room. We climbed down the cupola, and the boys' room was on the north side of the upstairs. There were 2 spindle beds in the room, 2 trunks, and 2 washstands, one with a cracked mirror. A blue and yellow hand-woven rug covered the floor on the foot of each bed, and I noticed that one side of the room was very neat. The bed was made, and the clothes were folded neatly on the trunk. The other side of the room was just the opposite. The bed was unmade, dirty clothes were on the floor, and books, rocks, toys were scattered on the rug. Without asking, I knew which side of the room belonged to Pablo and which side belonged to Hector. Boys, boys, Tia called. Come downstairs. Your tias, Margarita and Victoria, are waiting to begin your lessons. We clambered down the steep stairs. Clara, would you like to join the boys and the senoritas? Oh, no, thank you, Tia. Today I want to take a walk before it rains. Mother handed me an orange. Don't go too far, Clara. Listen for my whistle. I'll whistle for you when it's time to come home. I opened the front door of the hacienda, and Cody was waiting for me on the veranda.